I'm Jen Schrader, and this is Behind the Springs, conversations with the people working for you in Colorado Springs, Olympic City, USA. Hello, everyone. Our parks, trails, and open spaces are one of the biggest reasons that we all live here in Colorado Springs, and it's what draws people here from all over the country, across the world. And I think we can all agree that we really need to take good care of them. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about what's the plan for this big park system of ours. And I'm really excited to have two guests with me, Britt Haley, who is our parks director, and Lana Thielen, and she is the design and development manager. Thanks for both of you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, I'm excited to dive into the parks master plan. Some people may say, oh yeah, I've heard of that before. I know exactly what it is. And others may say, not so familiar. And that's probably the more common answer to that. And so I really want to kind of talk about the process, but I'd like to first start by talking about your own passion for parks, kind of what brought both of you into the parks department, because as I know from your stories, at least with the city, you did not start in the parks department. So tell me what sort of was that magnet for you? And we can start with you, Britt.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
So you're right. I think probably most of the people in our city have an outdoor space that calls them and that soothes them or gives them a good place to exercise or enjoy the outdoors or the indoors if you're maybe doing some of the other things that the Parks Department offers. And for me, it was definitely the same thing, but in a workspace. I grew up on the western side of the state on a ranch and grew to love the outdoors and to know that it was really important that if you didn't get to experience these spaces, you wouldn't know to protect them in the future. And so for me, parks, trails, open spaces, our community centers, and all of the enterprises that we have in the Parks Department all offer that opportunity for someone to connect with their community and to know why it's important to be able to have these spaces in the future.
I love that. The way you said that experiencing them leads to protecting them. That's very true. You have to have that experience. So what about you? What brought you to parks? Because you started did you start in our planning department with the city? Okay.
Yes, so a little bit different route coming to the Parks Department, but
yes.
Initially came to the city as a city planner.
Okay.
Worked myself through the planning chain and really enjoyed being a part of that built environment. So really getting to see something that someone proposed as a development come to life and being able to impact how we work within our built environment as planners. That's really important to us. Parks were always a component of that view. They weren't the most prominent piece as a planner, seeing those pieces of it, but definitely a piece of it. So there was an opportunity as Britt elevated to director to apply for a manager position over in Parks. I took the opportunity and luckily was granted the position, and now really being able to almost kind of look at the city as a whole from the reverse side of things. And there's a lot of times where I actually know developments that we've had in the past that now come in from a park side, or like Britt mentioned, that we're able to preserve, or we might not have been able to preserve them before. And so really having a different kind of impact on our city has been really exciting and an opportunity that I didn't imagine I would get to have. So really excited to be a part of the Parks Department.
So this was technically, Lana's current position was technically your former position,
yes.
Correct? Okay, so she filled your shoes. Yes, that worked out great.
It can be both a blessing and a curse.
Right. So you can help her along the way, give her
yes.
good advice. Yes.
And then also I have to be mindful that she has a different knowledge base and she knows what to do and that I can let that happen.
Yes.
Without being so attached to it, because you do in the Parks Department become attached to your work and you really want things to work out well. And it's so rewarding when, let's say, a playground is opened and then a week and a half later you go by and kids are just giggling and falling and rolling around
yes.
and just having the best time. And you think to yourself, that happened while I was working on it. And it's something you can really tangibly say your work produced.
That is so rewarding, right? That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this master plan process for the park system. So I know that people may have heard about our planning process, but don't quite know what it is. So Britt, can you give us an idea of what the process is and why we even go through this process and how often?
Yeah, no, it is interesting because a lot of times people like me would probably like almost roll their eyes when you talk about a big planning process for what you're working on, because you often think, well, you spend all this money and you do all this work and then it goes into a book and the book goes on a shelf. And that's not what we do in the Parks Department at all. I actually wanted to bring my copy of the master plan along to this just to kind of show you, like there are a bunch of sticky notes.
So this is the current master plan?
The current master plan right here. And it was done back in 2014.
Okay.
To answer one of your questions, we tried to do a new park system so that everything that is under our responsibility. 10 to 15 years is the length of one of these plans. And we actually do a community-wide public engagement process where we ask our city, what do you want in our system? What do you think we need that we don't have? What are your priorities with the system? And then we rely on it. It's all captured across this document. And so 4 years later, when we are proposing a giant acquisition of open space and someone will ask us, well, why are you doing this? And we can say, well, we asked the community, and the community said that they wanted a ring of open space around the entire city so that anybody in the city would have a pretty close access to open space. And this opportunity came along, and it meets all of these goals that were previously outlined. We didn't make it up. This is our roadmap. Or, if you're going to go play a football game, you're going to come in with a game plan. Well, this is our game plan.
Right.
And you can go back every time and find that there was a recommendation that's in alignment with whatever step that we're taking. And it's fun because when I was in Lana's position, there was a portion of this master plan that I was really familiar with. I knew it backwards and forwards. And then when I got to be a director, it opened up new doors into other parts of the master plan itself.
Yes.
That supported the work we did. And so we'd ask those questions, and you kind of learn that there are different desires in different parts of the city that get expressed and then captured. And as our city grows and our folks in outdoor recreation have different interests, or we embark on a plan in a different place, you learn about different community goals as time passes. And then you also learn that there's some tried and true classics that you're always going to hear in terms of what we should be doing all across that system. And this plan really, I think, legitimizes the work by asking our community on a pretty periodic basis about priorities and about needs and about objectives.
And like you said, some of it will stay the same probably and should.
Yes.
And some of it will definitely change and should.
And that's how we're responsive to our community. And
Absolutely.
we can actually show it to people.
And you said, so this guides you, so we don't just make it up. And to that end, Lana, let me ask you about, we don't just make it up ourselves either. It's not like a bunch of parks folks get around a table and say, let's come up with a new master plan. Can you talk about the resident portion of this and the importance of hearing from people?
Yes, so as Brett mentioned, this is our community vision, and we really want to make sure that our citizens are involved in that vision. And so we've designed a plan with a consultant that's going to assist us during this process to engage the citizens really every step of the way. And so can kind of walk you through our 5 steps that we have within this plan, and then how the citizens can get engaged in each of those pieces of the steps. So the first one is data collection. So we need to know, we have this existing plan. Where are we going from here? What have we done over the course of the last 10 to 12 years that we need to collect and understand what pieces we implemented, where we're going. So we're looking at all of our internal pieces. And again, it's a big park system. It's not just one component, but it's a large view. And so during that time, we're also going to ask the residents to give their input through a statistically valid survey.
Okay.
And so if you do receive a survey in the mail, it's real.
Yes, please fill it out.
Please fill it out and make sure that you return it. And we're being really strategic to ensure that we cover our entire community with that statistically valid survey so that we can get those results from that survey. If If you weren't chosen for a statistically valid survey, there's also going to be an opportunity for an online survey. And so we will post that on our website that you'll be able to go in and take that survey as well. And both of those we'll pull information from to coordinate with that data collection.
And what kind of questions are people being asked? Is it like, what parks do you frequent, or what do you want? Is it what type of questions?
Sure, it runs the full gamut. So we're looking at everything from what parks do you use, what components of those parks do you use, do you enjoy the dog walking place, do you want to play basketball there?
You want more accessibility in playgrounds? Yes. Okay.
How do you engage with your park? Or also asking about what components we could do better. Is there a maintenance component that we could do better with? And then, even going down to how do you hear about what the Parks Department does? How do you engage with us from a social media perspective? So it's a full range of questions in that survey. And through
so helpful to you, those answers.
Exactly. Those consultant answers will be kind of a guidance for us, and the ability that those consultants have to kind of cross-reference those answers and pull data out is really amazing. So we're really looking forward to those results.
Okay, so that'll be coming soon.
Coming soon, yes, in June, hopefully. Once we gather all the information together, we're going to get a document that tells us our needs and priorities assessment. So really, how did we do? How are we doing? What parts are our strengths, and what pieces do we need to work on going forward? We'll then engage the citizens in a community meeting to talk about those pieces as well, to engage in what things do they think we're doing well? Where do they want us to improve? So those kind of all combined together in that component.
And those are in-person meetings? Yes.
There will be 2 in-person meetings as well as an online version in order to accommodate those that might not be able to make it to our meetings.
Excellent. So no excuses, lots of opportunities for input. I'm hearing different ways that people can get involved, which is great.
And those community meetings will be the latter part of June into July. So again, all posted on our website once we finalize those dates.
Okay.
We'll then roll into our long-range vision. Where do we want to go from here? We'll also engage residents in a community meeting at that point. Next, we'll have our strategic visioning. So now that we know our long-range vision, how can we strategically look at achieving that goal?
So that's more implementation? How do you put it into practice?
Put it into real world information.
Right. And real change that people will see.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
And another community meeting at that point. So really wanting our citizens to walk with us through this entire process. Once we get to kind of the conclusion of those meetings, we'll have an ability for the actual version of the new park system master plan to be put online. And we also want citizens to engage at that point. Did we correctly hear what you heard or what you wanted to tell us? How is that represented in our actual plan? Are there pieces that we missed that you really wanted to have engaged in that plan? Once we complete that.
Last call. Is that kind of, okay.
Don't forget.
Don't forget to review it. Yes.
We're going to print.
Yes, exactly. No, that's really wonderful.
Yeah, and that's going to kind of be towards the end of this year into the beginning of next year that we'll have those final drafts to have citizens review.
Okay.
And then the last component of this is actually taking it through the process of review and approval as we get to that process through our Parks Advisory Board and then City Council. And again, citizens are welcome to come to those meetings, express what they enjoyed about the process, what they saw was in the document. And if there still are those lingering concerns, they're welcome to bring those up at that part of the process as well. We ultimately hope to conclude this process sometime spring of 2026. So it is an intense process. But we do really have multiple ways for citizens to be involved along the way and really hope citizens take advantage of that opportunity because, again, it's that guiding document for our community.
And you're giving a large amount of time for that to happen. So this will be a 2026 master plan, correct? By the time we're done, it will be 2026. So, okay. So give me some examples, Britt, when people are hearing about this process. Thank you, Lana, for explaining that. And they're thinking of what will come out of this plan. Can you give some examples of what has come out of previous plans or even this most recent plan?
Certainly.
Lots of examples, I know.
But want to talk about all of the things. But I'd mentioned the open space acquisitions earlier. Yes. There's also an entire section in this plan devoted to trails, the trail system. So what are we going to tackle as early opportunities? What are midterm opportunities? And what are long-range opportunities for trails all across the city? And I kind of wanted to just show you how tangible some of these recommendations really are. There's a section on park stewardship, maintenance, operations, and care, taking care of what we have. And some of the recommendations were address the imminent structural failures with a capital cost plan. Well, we did that actually. We hired an engineering firm, the Jacobs firm, to look at all of the park's infrastructure and put a cost basis to its lifespan. And what we learned from that was really frightening. It was a deferred maintenance backlog of $279 million, and that was back in 2020.
Okay. So it's similar to what we do with our roads and our bridges, where we say this is at end of life, or this needs paving before this road does, that type of prioritization.
Right, but a little bit more so with parks in the sense that we had never done one of these assessments. We could always say as parks professionals that we had hundreds of millions of dollars of work to do.
Always, but you didn't know the exact amount, or...
And citizens would rightfully question us, saying, you're just making that up, you're grabbing, a number out of the air, how can we trust it? And so the recommendation for the master plan was to get that assessment done, which we did do. And then the way this new master plan is building on it is the firm that was hired to do this, a new one, is going to go back out to every park facility. They're going to do a life cycle assessment. And so we will be a lot like Public Works in the sense of knowing when you really have to take care of the deferred maintenance so that you don't spend more money completely replacing something when you could have fixed it 5 years ago. And so I think it's a really smart way to do it, and it's building on the recommendations of this master plan to take care of those things. Another recommendation was to try to conserve more water by changing from bluegrass, which is very thirsty. It makes a nice soft turf, and it really has a good place in the park system, but looking for places where we can use native grass instead, or better irrigation methodologies. And we've done that. And so we've found that we actually have up to 20% savings in the cost of water when we do those things. So we've got all these great examples where it looks really nice and it works for the park and it works for our budget. That came from a direct recommendation of this plan. So it's kind of funny because our prior director and I were hearing from people that it was time to redo the park system master plan, and we couldn't believe it. We thought, no way. It was just yesterday that we did this thing. But we started going through all of these very specific recommendations and finding out that we really had, checked the box on so many of them that we were ready. One of the funding recommendations was to make sure that we extended the trails, open space, and parks sales and use tax.
And you did it.
That happened in 2023.
We did it. This whole community did it.
We all did it.
Yes.
And thanks to the voters for supporting parks in that way, because it's really become one of the most important parts of our program, providing those spaces, but making them safe and accessible for people to use.
But you're right. You don't want this to sit there any longer than it's useful. You want it to be useful. And so as soon as you start checking those boxes, you need to start making some new boxes to check, because there will always be.
Well, and the surprising thing is our city has now grown beyond the limits of the map that was the 2014 Park System Master Plan.
I'm sure.
And so here we are kind of in this gray area beyond that map. And so we really do need more guidance.
And we need an update. Yes. So time for an update. So we need you. We need the public. So please, if you're listening, whether you are a city employee or you are a resident who just loves your parks and trails and open spaces, or your recreation programs, your cultural services programs, our wonderful museum. I mean, all that the park system encompasses is part of this plan, correct?
That is exactly
yes.
right.
Okay. So no matter where you fit in there, and I know you fit in there somewhere, or someone in your family does. So we definitely want to hear from you. And as Lana said, there are plenty of opportunities coming up. So the best thing is to visit coloradosprings.gov/Park System Master Plan. That's where you can sign up for an email newsletter and get all this news so that you don't have to remember it all right this moment. And I really encourage people to follow Colorado Springs Parks on social media. It's a wonderful way to keep up with this plan, but it's just a really fun way to know what's happening in your parks. Whether it's a closure all the way to if a fun event is coming up and you don't even know about it and it's right in your neighborhood park. It's wonderful to just get those notifications. So that's a great way to keep up to date with it. Are you both feeling ready and excited to start this process? Probably a little overwhelmed. It's a big one, but...
It is. I think it's a big project, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Yes, over time, there are some overwhelming moments, definitely, but I think what we're going to get as the product out of this will really set us as a vision going forward. And being a planner, coming from planning,
you like to plan.
I do like to plan, and so I think that ultimate vision will be really helpful. And as Britt mentioned, there's so many components of it that we've completed. There are a few that we'd still like to complete, and we want that future vision of where we're going from here.
Right. Okay, good luck. I'm excited for this. We'll check in as we go along. We have some time, right? So you all will come back.
We do, and Lana's not alone. The entire Parks Department, some way or another, will be helping her with this.
Yes, that's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed listening, please share this episode with a friend, because your friend loves the park system. I know they do. And subscribe if you can. And we thank you so much for being here for Behind the Springs. Have a great day.